If you were to open the Forbes list of the wealthiest individuals in modern history, you would see familiar names. You would see Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, and the dynastic wealth of the Rockefellers. But long before the New York Stock Exchange, before cryptocurrency, before oil tycoons or tech giants, there walked a man whose net worth, adjusted for inflation, would shatter the $2 trillion mark. King Solomon wasn't just wealthy, he was the architect of biblical abundance. Scripture records in 1 Kings that in a single year, the weight of gold that came to Solomon was 666 talents. To put that into perspective, that is roughly 25 tons of pure gold annually, and that figure does not even count the tributes from merchants, the taxes from the kings of Arabia, or the exotic spices and precious stones brought by visiting dignitaries like the Queen of Sheba. But here is the secret that most historians, economists, and even theologians miss. His gold wasn't an accident. It wasn't just luck, and it wasn't just inheritance. It was the result of a specific code or divine algorithm for financial stewardship that he left hidden in the pages of Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and the Song of Solomon. Most people read these books for spiritual comfort, but they miss the economic blueprint lying in plain sight. Today, we are not just reading history. We are decoding the blueprint for your financial freedom. We are going to dismantle the poverty mindset and replace it with the kingdom mindset. Welcome to the Masterclass of Kings. To truly understand Solomon's wealth, we must first go back to the source. It didn't start with a bank account, it started with a sacrifice and a conversation. This brings us to principle number 1, the foundation of all wealth, the currency of wisdom. Before Solomon received a single ounce of gold, he made a transaction that changed the trajectory of his life at Gibeon. The scripture says that Solomon offered 1,000 burnt offerings. That is a massive investment. And that night, God appeared to him in a dream and gave him a blank check. God said, "Ask, what shall I give you?" Stop for a moment. Imagine the creator of the universe offering you anything. Most people today would ask for a lottery win. They would ask for a mansion, a cleared debt, or the destruction of their enemies. But Solomon did something counterintuitive. He didn't ask for long life. He didn't ask for riches. He asked for an understanding heart to judge the people. In the original Hebrew, the phrase is lev shamia, which literally translates to a hearing heart. He asked for the ability to discern, to understand deep patterns, to listen to divine strategy, and to know the difference between good and evil. In modern financial terms, Solomon asked for high-value skills and discernment. You see, most people chase money directly, and that is exactly why it eludes them. They chase the fruit without watering the root. Solomon understood that money is merely a byproduct of wisdom. In Proverbs chapter 3 verses 13 and 14, he tells us, "Happy is the man that findeth wisdom, and the man that getteth understanding. For the merchandise of it is better than the merchandise of silver, and the gain thereof than fine gold." Notice the word merchandise. He viewed wisdom as a tradable asset. In today's economy, this principle is more relevant than ever. It means investing in your financial literacy before you invest in the market. It means reading the books, taking the courses, and understanding the psychology of money before you risk your capital. If you try to build wealth without the wisdom to sustain it, you are building a castle on sand. We see this all the time with lottery winners or athletes who make millions and go broke within 3 years. They had the capital, but they lacked the wisdom. The first step to infinite wealth isn't buying a hot crypto coin. It's upgrading your mind. When you have the wisdom of the kingdom, the resources of the kingdom naturally follow. It is a law of attraction that predates physics. Because Solomon sought wisdom first, God told him, "Because you have not asked for riches, I have given you that which you have not asked, both riches and honor. Seek wisdom first, and the wallet will follow." Now that we have established the mindset, we must activate the hands. This leads us to principle number 2, the law of diligence. Solomon had zero tolerance for laziness. He coined a term that appears repeatedly in his writings, the sluggard. This isn't just someone who sleeps late. The sluggard is someone who refuses to execute. In Proverbs 10:4, he states bluntly, "Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth." But let's go deeper into the Hebrew meaning of diligence. The word used often implies sharp, decisive action. It is the opposite of hesitation. It is the detailed attention to your craft. Solomon gives us the ultimate biomimicry example for wealth building, the ant. In Proverbs chapter 6 he commands, "Go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider her ways, and be wise." Why the ant? Because the ant has no overseer, no governor, and no ruler, yet it gathers its food in the harvest. This is the ancient definition of being a self-starter. The ant doesn't need a boss to tell it to work. It understands market cycles. It knows that summer is for gathering so that winter can be for surviving. In our current timeline, winter could be a recession, high inflation, or a sudden job loss. The diligent investor is preparing during the harvest when times are good so they can thrive when the winter comes. Most people spend everything they earn during the summer. They buy the new car, they go on the expensive vacation, assuming the summer will last forever. But the student of Solomon knows that winter is inevitable. While the sluggard makes excuses, the sluggard says, "There is a lion in the streets. To avoid going to work, the diligent man sees the lion as an opportunity to sell lion skins. You must eliminate the spirit of procrastination. Wealth is a speed game. The longer you wait to start your compound interest, the harder the hill becomes to climb. Diligence is the bridge between your vision and your reality. The text says, "The soul of the sluggard desires and has nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made fat." Notice it says the soul. Wealth creation starts internally with a drive to serve and create value. If you are waiting for a handout, for the government to save you, or for luck to strike, you are violating the code of Solomon. You must become a producer, not just a consumer. But there is a third layer to this foundation often overlooked, which we call principle number 3, the reputation economy. In Proverbs 22:1, Solomon writes, "A good name is rather to be chosen than great riches, and loving favor rather than silver and gold." At first glance, this sounds like he is saying money isn't important, but look closer. He is teaching us about social capital asterisk. In the world of high-level business, your reputation is your currency. If you have billions of dollars but no one trusts you, your empire will crumble. Solomon understood that integrity is a wealth multiplier. When people trust you, deals happen faster. When people respect your name, opportunities find you. Loving favor opens doors that money cannot force open. Think about the most successful brands in the world. They spend billions protecting their brand name. Why? Because a damaged name destroys future profits. Solomon is teaching us that ethical wealth is sustainable wealth. Wealth built on deception is what he calls treasures of wickedness, and he warns that they profit nothing. So, where do we stand in this first block of instruction? We have learned that wisdom is the primary asset, that diligence is the engine of execution, and that a good name is the shield that protects your future. But working hard and being smart is only the beginning. You can work yourself to the bone and still die broke if you do want to understand where to put asterisks that money once you earn it. You can have a good name and still be poor if you do want to understand the mechanics of multiplication. Solomon had a specific diversification strategy that modern hedge funds still use today, often without giving him credit. He didn't keep all his gold in one vault, and he didn't send all his ships to one port. As we move deeper into his mind in the next section, we are going to uncover his specific formula for risk management found in Ecclesiastes chapter 11. We are going to discuss the one investment vehicle he claimed was strictly for fools, and most importantly, we will reveal how he managed to create passive income streams that outlived him. Prepare yourself, because we are about to move from the mindset of wealth to the mechanics of multiplication. Welcome back to the Masterclass of Kings. In the previous section, we established the mental foundation, acquiring the currency of wisdom, embracing the aggressive diligence of the ant, and protecting your reputation above silver and gold. But now, the conversation must shift gears entirely. It is one thing to make money. It is an entirely different skill set to keep it and multiply it. History is filled with men who had the strength to earn millions but lacked the strategy to preserve it. We have all heard the tragic stories of lottery winners or famous athletes who, despite earning massive fortunes, return to poverty within a few years. Why does this happen? Because they lack the defensive architecture of wealth. Now, we enter the vault of Solomon's advanced economic strategies to ensure that what you build actually lasts. This brings us to principle number 4, the rule of diversification. If you walk into a modern financial advisor's office on Wall Street today, they will talk to you about asset allocation. They will show you pie charts and tell you not to put all your eggs in one basket. But King Solomon wrote the definitive text on this nearly 3,000 years ago. In Ecclesiastes chapter 11 verse 2, he gives a very specific mathematical instruction that most people overlook. He writes, "Give a portion to 7, and also to 8. For thou knowest not what evil shall be upon the earth." Analyze that text closely. Give a portion to 7, and also to 8. This is not a poetic suggestion. It is a risk management protocol. Solomon is telling you to diversify your income streams across 7 or 8 different vessels. Why? Because you know not what evil shall be upon the earth. He was a king who understood geopolitics and disaster. He knew that a famine could hit the wheat fields of Israel, that pirates could sink the trading ships coming from Tarshish, or that a war could close the trade routes to Egypt. If 100% of your wealth is in wheat, and a drought comes, you are bankrupt. But, if you have wheat, and gold, and real estate, and cattle, and ships, if the wheat fails, the cattle might still thrive. If the ships sink, the gold in the vault remains. In our modern context, this is a stern warning against relying on a single paycheck. If you have one job, one income source, you are living in a state of fragility. You are one bad meeting, one round of layoffs, or one economic downturn away from financial ruin. That is a fragile existence, not a wealthy one. Solomon commands us to build pillars 7 or 8 of them. This is the definition of anti-fragility. What does this look like today? It means you have your primary salary, but you also have a side business. You have a dividend stock portfolio paying you quarterly. You have real estate rental income coming in monthly. You have intellectual property royalties, perhaps from a book or a digital product. You might have precious metals like gold or silver as a hedge against inflation. When evil is upon the earth, when the stock market crashes, when a pandemic hits, or when inflation spikes, the man with 8 streams does not panic. He simply pivots to the stream that is still flowing. This is the difference between being rich and being wealthy. Riches can be lost in a day. Wealth is a fortified city with many gates. If one gate closes, another remains open. But how do we build these streams without falling into a deadly trap? This leads us to the most dangerous enemy of wealth, and principle number 5, the tyranny of debt. In Proverbs 22:7, Solomon drops one of the heaviest truths in the entire Bible regarding social structure. The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. Notice the specific language he uses. He doesn't say the borrower is a partner to the lender. He doesn't say the borrower is a client. He says the borrower is a servant or in some translations a slave. When you take on bad debt, consumer debt, credit card debt, loans for cars that depreciate, or vacations you can't afford, you are literally selling your future time to someone else. You are working today to pay for a decision you made yesterday. You are trading your freedom for instant gratification. You cannot build the kingdom of God effectively if you are enslaved to the Bank of Babylon. Solomon warns aggressively against surety, which is the ancient term for co-signing a loan or guaranteeing someone else's debt. In Proverbs chapter 6, he uses frantic language. He says, if you have co-signed for a stranger, deliver thyself as a roe from the hand of the hunter. He tells you to run. Do not sleep. Do not slumber. Get out of that obligation immediately. Why such urgency? Why does he compare debt to a hunter's trap? Because debt removes your options. It removes your sovereignty. Now, we must distinguish between good debt and bad debt, a concept Solomon alludes to in his trade dealings. The wealthy use debt as a tool as leverage to buy assets that pay for the debt. If you borrow money to buy a rental property, and the tenant pays the mortgage plus a profit, that is leverage. But the fool uses debt to buy liabilities that eat their cash flow. If you borrow money to look rich, you guarantee that you will stay poor. If you want to walk in Solomon's shoes, you must declare war on consumer debt. You must regain your sovereignty. You cannot be a king and a slave at the same time. The first step to infinite wealth is often simply stopping the bleeding of interest payments. Now, let's pivot to something that seems to contradict everything we just said. We have talked about gathering, working, saving, and diversifying. But principle number 6 is a paradox that confuses the greedy and frustrates the mathematician. It is the law of generosity, or what I call the river principle. In Proverbs 11:24, Solomon writes, there is that scattereth and yet increaseth, and there is that withholdeth more than is meet, but it tendeth to poverty. Read that again. One man gives freely, scatters his money, and gets richer. Another man hoards every penny, clutching it tight, refusing to help anyone, and he ends up poor. Mathematically, this makes no sense. If I give away money, I should have less. Right. But Solomon teaches kingdom physics, not just math. Think of the dynamic of water in nature. A body of water that has an inlet but no outlet becomes stagnant. Think of the Dead Sea in Israel. Water flows in from the Jordan River, but it has no outlet. The water evaporates, leaving behind salt. Nothing grows there. It is dead. But a body of water that has an inlet and an outlet becomes a river. It is fresh, it is alive, and it is powerful. Money is called currency because it is meant to flow like a current. If you stop the flow, you stop the life. Solomon was the wealthiest man, but he was also the most generous. When he dedicated the temple, he didn't sacrifice one sheep. He sacrificed 22,000 oxen and 120,000 sheep. The scale of his giving was absurd, almost offensive to the prudent mind. And what happened? God entrusted him with even more. This is not a get-rich-quick magic trick, and it is not about buying God's favor. It is a mindset shift from scarcity to abundance. The hoarder operates out of fear. If I let this go, I won't have enough. The wise steward operates out of faith. I am a conduit of resources. As I release this to help others, more will flow through me. Generosity signals to your brain and to the spiritual realm that you have more than enough. It breaks the grip of greed. If you cannot give $1 when you have 10, you will not give $1 million when you have 10 million. The amount changes, but the heart remains the same. To be truly wealthy like Solomon, you must keep the river flowing. You must practice radical generosity, not just with money, but with your knowledge and your network. So, where do we stand? We have diversified our income to protect against evil. We have eliminated the slavery of debt to regain our freedom. And we have opened the floodgates of generosity to ensure the flow continues. But, my friends, there is a danger looming. There is a specific trap that has destroyed more kings, more CEOs, and more pastors than debt or famine combined. You can have the wisdom, the diligence, the diversification, and the generosity, and still lose it all if you fail this next test. It is the test of character and impulse control. As we prepare for the final section of our masterclass, we are going to look at the darker side of Solomon's story, the years where he lost his way. We are going to discuss the forbidden woman not just in the sexual sense, but as a metaphor for the shiny objects, the temptations, and the distractions that derail high achievers. And finally, we will tackle the hardest question of all. Who gets your money when you die? Solomon struggled deeply with the idea of legacy, realizing that if he left his fortune to a fool, all his hard work would be vanity. In the next and final block, we will reveal the strategy of succession and the ultimate conclusion of the matter. Stay focused, because the most painful lesson and the most important one is yet to come. Welcome back to the final session of the Masterclass of Kings. If you have made it this far, you are serious about building infinite wealth. We have covered the mindset of wisdom, the engine of diligence, the shield of reputation, the architecture of diversification, the freedom from debt, and the flow of generosity. You now have the technical blueprint to become incredibly wealthy. But now, I must warn you. The final segment is not about how to make money. It is about how money can unmake you. We must look at the tragic arc of Solomon's life. He had everything, yet the end of his life was marked by cynicism and spiritual compromise. Why? Because he failed principle number 7, the test of impulse control. In the book of Deuteronomy, God gave specific instructions for future kings. They were not to multiply horses' military power, they were not to multiply silver and gold excessively hoarding, and they were not to multiply wives lest their hearts turn away. Solomon broke all 3 rules, but the most damaging was the multiplication of wives, 700 wives and 300 concubines, many from foreign nations who worshipped other gods. Now, before you tune out thinking this doesn't apply to your finances, listen closely. In Proverbs, Solomon personifies temptation as the forbidden woman, or the adulteress, while this is literally about sexual purity. In the context of wealth, it is a powerful metaphor for the shiny object syndrome. When you start making real money, the temptations multiply exponentially. The forbidden woman is the luxury car you buy to impress people you don't even like. It is the impulsive investment in a hot tip because of fear of missing out, FOMO, rather than due diligence. It is lifestyle creep where your spending rises as fast as your income, leaving you on a higher level hamster wheel. Solomon's downfall wasn't a lack of revenue, it was a lack of boundaries. He tried to fill a spiritual void with material excess. In Ecclesiastes chapter 2, he describes his experiments in hedonism. I made me great works, I builded me houses, I planted me vineyards, I gathered me also silver and gold. Whatsoever mine eyes desired, I kept not from them. He bought everything, he experienced everything. And what was his conclusion? All was vanity and vexation of spirit, and there was no profit under the sun. The lesson for us is critical. Money makes you more of what you already are. If you are disciplined, money will amplify your discipline. If you have no impulse control, money will buy you a faster ticket to destruction. You must master your desires before you master your millions. A rich fool is still a fool, just with more expensive mistakes. This brings us to the final, and perhaps the most painful, realization that Solomon had. It is the crisis that keeps billionaires awake at night. It is principle number 8, the burden of legacy. As Solomon approached the end of his life, looking at his massive piles of gold and his grand architectural achievements, a deep depression settled over him. He writes in Ecclesiastes 2:18-19, Yea, I hated all my labor which I had taken under the sun, because I should leave it unto the man that shall be after me, and who knoweth whether he shall be a wise man or a fool. Yet shall he have rule over all my labor wherein I have labored, and wherein I have showed myself wise under the sun. This is also vanity, this is profound. Solomon realized that you can spend 40 years building an empire with incredible wisdom, and your successor can destroy it in 4 years with incredible stupidity. And tragically, history tells us that is exactly what happened. His son, Rehoboam, inherited the wealthiest kingdom on earth, but he lacked his father's wisdom. He listened to young, foolish advisors instead of the elders. He raised taxes aggressively, caused a civil war, and split the kingdom of Israel in 2. The golden age of Solomon ended almost immediately after his death because he prepared the inheritance but he failed to prepare the heir. In our modern context, this is the challenge of generational wealth. It is estimated that 70% of wealthy families lose their wealth by the 2nd generation, and 90% lose it by the 3rd. Why? Because the 1st generation has the grit, the hustle, and the discipline born of scarcity. The 2nd generation enjoys the fruit but didn't do the planting. The 3rd generation is often entitled and clueless about the cost of production. If you want infinite wealth that outlives you, as your greatest investment is not in the stock market. It is in the dinner table conversations with your children. You must teach them the value of $1. You must teach them diligence, stewardship, and generosity. Leaving $1 million to a child with a poverty mindset is financial child abuse. You must transfer the wisdom before you transfer the wallet. So, where does this leave us? We have traveled through the mind of the richest man who ever lived. We have seen the heights of his wisdom and the depths of his folly. What is the final word? How do we summarize the path to infinite wealth? Solomon himself provides the conclusion in the very last verses of Ecclesiastes after analyzing wealth, power, pleasure, and work. He says this, Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter, fear God, and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. This seems anticlimactic to the carnal mind. You wanted a stock tip and he gives you theology. But this is the ultimate secret. Solomon realized that true wealth isn't just the gold in the vault, it is alignment with divine order. When you operate your finances according to God's principles, honesty, diligence, generosity, stewardship, you are swimming with the current of the universe, not against it. The fear of the Lord is not being scared of God. It is having a reverence for His way of doing things. It is realizing that He is the owner, and you are just the manager. When you get this right, the money doesn't own you, you own the money. You use wealth as a tool to bless your family, to build the kingdom, and to impact the world. That is not just being rich, that is being free. You now have the principles. The code has been decrypted, but knowledge without application is dead. The question is not, did you enjoy this masterclass? The question is, what will you do differently tomorrow morning? Will you seek wisdom first? Will you study the ant and kill procrastination? Will you diversify your income streams? Will you attack your debt like it's an enemy hunter? And most importantly, will you prepare your heart to handle the blessing so it doesn't crush you? The choice is yours. The path of the sluggard leads to want. The path of the wise leads to infinite abundance. Choose wisely. If this masterclass has opened your eyes to the hidden financial codes in Scripture, do not let the learning stop here. This channel is dedicated to decoding kingdom principles for modern success. We don't just talk about faith, we talk about practical application for your finances, your business, and your mindset. If you want to continue receiving high-level downloads of biblical wisdom for wealth creation, hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a lesson. Share this video with someone who needs to break the poverty cycle in their family. The harvest is ready, but the laborers are few. Join us, and let's build something that lasts for generations. Until next time, be diligent, be wise, and be generous.